I'm Andrew from POA Network. POA Network is an Ethereum sidechain. We utilize a proof of authority consensus by KYC validators. And please stop me if you have any questions or something doesn't make sense, and I'll explain anything you guys need. So we are a second layer scalability solution for Ethereum. Our vision for scalability involves bridges. So someone can deploy on POA Network their application, which is faster and cheaper than Ethereum, and they can use the bridges to still interact between both the chains. A sidechain is basically, it's an independent network from Ethereum network with unique balances, transactions, but it still uses the Ethereum Virtual Machine.
Does it actually use Ethereum?
Yes. So it's the same code base, smart contracts, everything. Yeah. So I've been working on a project called BlockScout. BlockScout is an open source, full-featured EVM block explorer. We're friendly to forks, private networks, and sidechains. It's open source. We've had tons of contributors from the community. And if you have a feature request or you're interested in deploying it and want to see something on there, feel free to make an issue and we'll make it happen. We actually launched today, so we will be having in the next few days some Gitcoin bounties. So if you want to make some money and fix some issues, then feel free to do so. So as a sidechain, when we started the network about a year ago, December of last year, we encountered some problems, and a lot of them were around tooling. For how many are familiar with Ethereum? Is everybody okay? Everybody knows Ethereum. Everybody in Ethereum uses Etherscan, but as a sidechain, we don't have access to Etherscan, and there's no open source, full-featured block explorers. So we decided to create one for all sidechains, forks in the future, like Ethereum Classic and anybody else. And full featured means that it has transaction history, contract interaction, queryable contracts once you do verify the contract. So we want it to be basically exactly like Etherscan is, but for any sidechain. And the problem from an Ethereum perspective is that there's a centralization problem. There's only one big explorer in Ethereum, and that's Etherscan. They're closed source, so you can't verify their source code. And I'm not hating on them. Ethereum wouldn't be today without Etherscan. But a project like BlockScout will make Ethereum more decentralized. You can actually verify that an account's balance is what Etherscan says it is with the project like BlockScout. One of my last points is off-chain data is not available to the public. So Etherscan gets a lot of data that isn't available on-chain, such as small things like token icons. They display a lot of this information, source codes from people verifying their smart contracts. We want to make this available to the general public through, they can consume it through one of our API endpoints, or in the future, one of our future issues will be to have all of our BlockScout instances communicate with each other. Between their, if you verify a contract on one chain, it will be verified on another chain. And same with all wallet names. If somebody verifies a wallet name on one chain, all the BlockScout instances will be able to talk to each other and know what that wallet and who owns that wallet on another chain. So BlockScout's features, it's a full feature block explorer. So we have blocks transactions, internal transaction, receipts, logs, uncles, block reorganizations, which are my nightmare, ERC20 token support, ERC721, contract verification. You're able to query the contracts as well, and very similar to what Etherscan offers. And then we also have a real-time UI, so you don't have to ever refresh the page. Whether you're sitting on your address page, the balance is updated. If a transaction comes in, it just happens in real time. So we use Elixir on the Erlang VM along with Postgres. We decided to go with Elixir because of, well, Erlang in general, because of their concurrency. That's what they're known for. They applications like WhatsApp, and it was developed for the phone industry, and it's very stable and reliable. It's actually, when you were talking about your project, I was thinking, oh, that would have been, Erlang would have been a great solution for maybe something that you were doing. But concurrency. So Erlang has, it basically spins up, let me put it a different way. And I'll actually share a video that I saw on Erlang. So what the problem they were trying to solve was, they took a book like a Bible, okay? And they did just some simple iteration through every single word in the Bible, okay? Now, they then took Erlang and did the same thing, but they utilized all the cores at the same time to accomplish the same thing. It was in something like 1,000 times faster, because they're able to much easier utilize the core functionality of the language, versus like trying to do something like that in something like Node or other languages would be much more difficult. But they were able to do it because of Erlang's core infrastructure. So this is a picture of a homepage of BlockScout. This is on Ethereum network. I don't know how well you can actually see it. But something we encountered when we were, so we just launched Ethereum, about a month ago, in our alpha testing and everything else. And compared to other networks, it's just the blocks on Ethereum are so packed that new blocks had come in, but yet we haven't finished processing the older blocks that have already come in. So we found ourselves, if a block comes in and it has 200 transactions, then a new block comes in and only has 10 transactions, we were processing the one with 10 transactions much quicker. And then blocks would come in out of order, and it was just a bad user experience. So we started doing things like ordering them when they came in. So as we see in the picture, a block comes in, we didn't process it yet, but then a new block comes in, and then finally the block gets processed. But then this all happens in real time, and we wanted to provide that type of user experience. Again, it's the same thing. We're seeing blocks come in, but we haven't processed them, and then we'll end up processing them here. Yep, just like that. And then this is just a picture of ERC20. Very similar to what we didn't want to move too far away from what Etherscan offers. We want it to be similar to their UI, so your eyes, knew exactly where to go to see this or that, whether it was your address, your transactions. So for ERC 721, we're kind of excited because we finally finished the bare bones, the infrastructure of an Explorer. But for ERC 721, there's so many data attributes and fun things you can do with them. Because is anybody not familiar with what ERC 721 is? Basically, they're unique tokens. So ERC20 token, basically it's a token that's built on top of Ethereum or POA, or it could be any network. But ERC20, when I send you 10 of them, all 10 are identical. But in ERC 721, they're all unique. So they have a token ID, and they could have all individual attributes. So like a very popular ERC 721 token is CryptoKitties. And they're individual cats that, they all have different attributes. But we can actually start providing user data, token data along with right in the Explorer. So that could be images, the names, the other attributes for all ERC 721 tokens. And this is something that we will be building in the next couple of weeks, actually. It's an issue that one of our teams is actually working on. So this is a picture of our smart contract verification. Actually, I can show it live here. So this is a game that's actually developed on our platform. So this contract here is verified. So they took their source code, verified the contract, so you can, read everything, all their source code. We also have the contract ABI, and then of course their contract creation code. You can also query the contract here. So you can take any of these, you can read all the attributes, you can interact with all the blockchain data right from BlockScout here. Go back here. There we go. All right, so our future roadmap. We have a lot planned in the future, such as data export for people that can't consume our API. So we also do have API endpoints for basically all the data that we do consume. But a lot of people just aren't programmers and can't access this data through the API. So if you're sitting on your address page and you want to gain access to like all your transactions, you'll be able to export them via CSV or some other some other platform. We haven't quite decided exactly what we're going to do there. But and then, as I talked about before, the communication between the BlockScout instances for all the user data, that's all the stuff that's not on the blockchain. We'll be having all the instances communicate. Even your local or private networks will be able to communicate with our deployed BlockScout instances. So we found while deploying Ethereum Mainnet BlockScout that we really needed to go to IPC. Right now you can input your RPC endpoints, but it's just too slow. It's difficult to keep up with Ethereum Mainnet because all the blocks are so packed. So very soon we'll basically spin up a parity node right next to the BlockScout instance, and we'll be moving to IPC instead of RPC. But we'll also support RPC if it's something you choose to use. And then of course we have read contract functionality, so it just makes sense to have write as well. So you'll be able to write to the blockchain right from BlockScout. And of course we have more user experience optimizations. We've been developing this for around 6 months now, but there's still so much that can be done from a UI standpoint that we want to make right. So it's a never-ending process, and we have a team just dedicated to that. That's about 4 developers just doing that. And then we talked about ERC 721 data attributes. That should happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. That'll be included in all BlockScout instances. IPFS. So we're not sure what we're going to do with this yet, but we know we want to play with it. We're thinking about using it for all the off-chain data, and we want to store this in a decentralized fashion just for the community to obtain this type of information. And of course, the last one is sharding. We always have to keep our eye on what Ethereum's doing and what they have on their roadmap, because it's something we're going to have to cover as well in what we do. So that is everything I have as far as the presentation. Like I said before, we did just launch today. So this, what I'm showing you here is our POA chain. So this is our chain here, but we also do have 6 networks here we added this background image here last night. And of course, it has the wrong Z index, so it's hard to hover over these. Yeah. But we support 6 networks right now. There will be a 7th added tomorrow, which I can't talk about yet, but we will have another network on there tomorrow, which is exciting. It's a network we're launching for POA, so look out for that in the next day or 2. Is there any questions?
Where in the interface were you looking at the contracts?
The smart contracts?
Yeah.
So this was on our POA chain. In the transactions, we're going to see, it's going to be colored green, and I got to go find it, but it's actually one of the games that's on our, I'm just looking for. So we have color coded, and I can probably show this better if I. So like a contract creation is colored purple, transactions are blue, contract calls are green. And that way you can quickly recognize what's going on in an account. And actually, let me see if I can find that. I don't know if these actually, yeah. So these are just errors from so this is a token. I don't know exactly where, but I can send it to you after the address, and that way you'll be able to play around with it and take a look at it. Is there any other questions?
Did you say you guys have a token? Did you guys look at ICO and that stuff? Like,
Yes, so we did have a token generation event about a year ago.
And that's going to be for your network that you want?
For our network, yes. Yep.
And it's
It's
a
for POA. Yeah.
proof of authority?
Yes. Yep.
So, so why do you think it took so long? I mean, it just seems like having an explorer like this makes sense. Why did it take so long for there to be an open source version of Etherscan, do you think?
It takes a lot of funding, to be honest with you. For us, thankfully, ETH Prize, which is, they are a, how do I put it? An organization that helps projects raise funds. It's an Ethereum, it's not Ethereum Foundation, but it's helped by Ethereum Foundation that's helped us fund this project, along with, of course, our own network that put in a lot of money to build this. But I think it's number one, the money. Again, to run all of the networks and everything else on a monthly basis, we're not going to monetize this. It's not on our roadmap to do anything like that. So it's costly. I think from developer experience, you need a big team to do it. Sometimes at the max, we had 22 people working on the project at once. And it took us 6 months to do it, to get to this point, and we still have a lot of stuff that we need to make it to get to the point of where Ethereum is. They've been up for 3.5 years now, so they've got a big head start, and we're looking to get on level playing ground as them.
That's awesome.
So is the API right now?
Yep, the API is ready, so we are Etherscan compatible. We have the exact same endpoints, even though we didn't like how they structured a lot of stuff. We still went, so if you wanted to change, from using Etherscan, you can easily use BlockScout's API. We will be using GraphQL in the future for what we feel like is our better API endpoints. We also using Everix API endpoints are being built this week by one of our developers. So if you want to interact with tokens. Cool.
For adding in another blockchain network, like a set private network somewhere, how would I be able to use this tool on that?
Yes.
And how would I do that?
Sure. So would you just want me to deploy one and just show you?
Sure.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay. So you would, all the instructions, this is our GitHub repo here for BlockScout. All the directions are here. You're going to need to install all these dependencies first.
Wait, could you just let me know? Just...
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
But first we're just going to clone it, so. So we're just going to start here. So we just did all this. Now what we're going to do is this first one. This is going to be, and this is actually where a lot of people get stuck. This is going to be a secret file for, and I'll actually change in a second, but let me just do the second one here. It's going to be for your database configuration for Postgres. And we'll go in and change it now. So again, this is Phoenix framework in Elixir. And these are all of what's called umbrella applications. So we have the indexer right here, which is in charge of actually consuming the data from the blockchain. And then of course up here is we built a custom JSON RPC, which basically makes the calls to the blockchain, and then the indexer consumes the data and imports it into the database.
Does Postgres keep it up that part of it, or are we using it?
Yep, Postgres, yeah. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go into the config, and we just created this secret file. So because we are on a Mac, we're going to just delete these. But if you're gonna use Ubuntu or something like that, then you're gonna have to actually configure what the password is and the username. And then next, we will install all our dependencies here. And this is painful. I have to do this 10 times a day, so it'll take about 3 or 4 minutes. Is there any other questions in the meantime?
Are you doing it 10 times a day, or are you giving that many demonstrations?
No, all the pull requests, reviews, and everything else, yeah, and just new builds, new chains. You know, we're just in that development process right now.
So talk a little bit about, I mean, POA in general, like what's the factor for that?
So we launched our big selling point was our bridges, which we launched in May of this year, May or April, I think May, which basically allows you to transfer tokens or coins from one chain to another. So everybody talks about interoperability, but it's something that we were one of the first people. I don't like to say first in anything. I just think it's bad to do. So our first bridge was a native to ERC20 interpretation or implementation. So you could take a POA coin and then send it across the bridge to Ethereum, and then it's replica on the Ethereum chain. So it gets locked on our chain and minted on Ethereum chain. And then you could send it back where it's burned on Ethereum and it's unlocked on POA and sent to your wallet.
Interesting.
Yeah, and now we have ERC20 to ERC20. So if you launch an application on POA, it's much cheaper. I think it's 100 times cheaper to interact on our chain. So you launch your app here, but let's say you need, Ethereum is great for liquidity. They have all these decentralized exchanges and everything else. So you launch your dApp on our chain, send your tokens across if you need liquidity or some other interaction with Ethereum, and you then have access through the ERC20 to ERC20 bridge. We're seeing right now all these games that are on Ethereum network, and they're just not usable because of how much it costs and how slow the network is. It's just packed blocks. So people are actually sending all their assets across using our ERC721 bridge. They're sending all their assets across, deploying on POA, and running their game successfully.
So how do you see this change once sharding, classic, and all that stuff comes along? Is this all scale?
It's really, okay, so let me ask you this. Let's say you launched your application on our network, okay? You're happy with how it runs, and then sharding or plasma or something else comes along. If you're successful in your launch, will you change networks?
I think about migration.
Yeah.
Just because it's more tightly, it's not a side chain.
Sure, yeah, no, it's a really good question, and it's something that, but us as a sidechain, we're always innovating. We're not set on just always being a scaling solution for Ethereum. We didn't even think about games when we first launched, but now all of a sudden all these games are coming to us, and probably wasn't even on the minds of a lot of us. But it's actually, we're turning into the game platform apparently. We actually almost won a contest, or I'm not sure if we won or not. It was a couple days ago. Basically to be integrated into dApp Radar, I believe, which gives our network a lot more exposure.
Is POS planning to pursue long-term notary?
I'm sorry?
Notary-based authority? Or when it launched, notaries with block producers?
Correct.
Is that long-term?
I don't know what I can say about this, to be honest with you, because there's something that's going to launch very soon that's going to be not public notaries. So it's another network basically that's going to, so our goal is to have all these interoperable chains that are interconnected. And it's not going to be, I guess that's probably all I can say is that it's.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, like if POA isn't going to be money, but then you also can't stake POA.
Well, correct, but there's something that's going to solve this soon. I'm going to get myself fired if I talk about it. Yeah.
No one's watching.
No, but it's, so proof of authority, of course, is authorities, and our idea behind that, which it's like a second layer consensus, is that you actually have to stake your identity. So it's actually public notaries that are verifying the blocks. So you can, they're named individuals, you can have their address, so if anything fishy ever happened, you know where to find them. And right now we have 21 validators on our network.
Are there certain types of networks that work better for you guys than others?
And what do you mean by that? Like,
I'm just thinking like the ones that you have listed today.
Yep.
What was the reasoning for those?
so we knew we wanted to have Ethereum Mainnet.
Yeah.
Just made sense. And then we have Kovan Testnet. Kovan Testnet is like the testnet of Ethereum, which is proof of authority based. And then Ropsten Network is a proof of work testnet of Ethereum. So it's like, there's one more called Rinkeby, but it's not, you can't use parity. So it's a client, we would have included Rinkeby as well, which we will in the future. But so we wanted Ethereum and all its testnets. So if somebody has a development process, they can use the Explorer throughout the development process up to, production. And then the other ones included are all POA based networks. So our testnet and our public network.
Are sidechains mainly POA?
It's a good question.
Because that seems to be kind of the balance between speed and.
Yeah, it's again, it's a mix you kind of have to give up, but there are studies that say that yeah. So yeah, but most are proof authority based that you're seeing now. It's a hard question to answer,
Right. And,
Yep.
And EOS is just proof of stake, right?
Who EOS?
Which recently.
No, they're delegated proof of stake, which is.
And Casper is a different form of DPoS.
Casper is like proof of stake, EOS is delegated proof of stake. EOS would probably like you to think that it's proof of stake. Ethereum would probably
The
like
DPoS,
you
and
to
Casper is a flavor of DPoS. Okay, yeah, I got it. So they're good.
Yeah, and we're a cryptographically secure type of proof of stake with delegated proof of stake. Yeah. Okay, so normally you would do mix ecto create and mix ecto migrate. So, but because I already have a chain already on here, then I actually have to drop it and then create it again. Oh, oops. Wrong one. Okay, did it anyways. We'll do it again. All right, so next we're just going to install the node dependencies. So BlockScout Web, this umbrella app, this is like the UI. This is BlockScout Web here. So I'll actually show you like how to change like the CSS colors and stuff, simple stuff like that. We actually have all the themes and logos for all kinds of different networks if you wanted to like change the colors. But that would be in this umbrella app here. And then the last one is the for Explorer. So Explorer holds a lot of like the contract interaction modules and stuff like that. So that's what we need Node for there. And now we will start the app. give it a second. Boom, done. So we'll refresh one more time. And so what we're seeing here is like the POA theme, but it's actually the Sokol, it's a Sokol testnet RPC endpoint. So it's like our testnet, but with like our core theme up there. And actually what we have here, and it's actually not on production, so we also have blocks, uncles, and reorgs here. So do you guys know what a reorg is? So a reorg is, and it's actually funny, like, I don't think you really realize, or most people don't realize, how many times, so nodes basically they think that they're on the main chain, but in fact, they're off mining or, getting consensus from some other, side, how do I put it? They're basically putting blocks on the chain that have no reason to be put on the chain. So they go off, here's block 10, here's block 11, here's block 12, and then they realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm over here and the main chain is going this way. So they actually revert all those blocks and then come back and then send like all the new blocks through of what the actual transactions that actually happened on those blocks. So it happens all the time. I'm going to say 5% of the time, there's going to like the information we receive is actually wrong and it's actually a fork. So we have to, in our database, we have like consensus false and consensus true. So when we receive a block, it automatically gets consensus true. And then when we receive the same block again, we have to check what the parent hash, so a parent hash is the block previous, and then we see if it matches. If it does match, then we know we're on the main chain. If it doesn't, then we know it's a reorg. So that gets consensus false. So yeah, it's something that was just added today. Well, in the UI it was added today. Last week we added it to our indexer. So yeah, that's the launch application right there. Is there any questions?
Does the accounts tab work? It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, so this was another issue we found. Okay, do you see how all these say 58 transactions? They're not all 58 transactions. So we were having issues with Postgres with counts. So with 400 million transactions on Ethereum Mainnet, trying to do a count on different addresses and pagination can be painful, and it was making our application extremely slow. So we looked into, we talked to some consulting agencies and looked in, their advice was do explain queries, but then parse out the number of rows that it gives you back. So we said, okay, we'll try this. And that's us trying it, which doesn't work. Yeah, so that's why accounts is disabled on the production. But what we came up with is to utilize Erlang. Erlang is great at this stuff. So they have something called ETS tables. ETS tables is Erlang term storage, which basically they can create their own database storage, but of memory. So it's super quick, and that's how we're keeping all our counts now. So for token transfers, anything we need a count for now is going to be done in Erlang with using ETS tables. So this just hasn't been done yet, like for individual account transactions, the number of transactions, and that's the reason why I decided let's just disable this now, because I know people are going to be writing issues. Hey, I don't have this many transactions. Why are you displaying that? So, cool. Anything else? No? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks.